The family dinner that exposed a decade-long lie. Family dinners were supposed to be my mom's thing. She'd host them every month without fail, pulling out the good china and cooking a feast. My siblings and I would groan about it, complaining about the long drives, the awkward small talk, but we all secretly loved it. Or so I thought. Last Sunday's dinner wasn't just awkward. It blew up into a full-blown family meltdown. The setup, it started like every other family dinner. My mom had gone all out. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, homemade bread. The dining table was immaculate, set with place cards like we were dining at a five-star restaurant instead of her suburban house. My dad, predictably, was in the recliner watching football, and my two younger siblings, my brother Alex and my sister Emma, were in the kitchen with me, sneaking bites of dessert before dinner started. Everything seemed normal, but there was this weird energy in the air like everyone was holding their breath. I noticed it when my mom asked Emma to grab the wine glasses, and Emma snapped, "Why don't you ask Alex to help for once?" That was odd. Emma and Alex usually got along great, but they avoided each other's eyes after that. The dinner started with the usual banter. My dad complained about the NFL officiating, Alex cracked a joke about my burnt turkey last Thanksgiving, and Emma chimed in with a story about her new promotion. But halfway through the meal, my mom raised her glass and said, "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Family is so important to me, and I'm proud of the strong bond we all have." The words hung in the air, heavy. Alex scoffed. It wasn't loud, but it was loud enough. "Something you want to say, Alex?" My mom asked, her voice icy. "Not really," Alex said, shoving a forkful of potatoes into his mouth. Mom wasn't letting it go. "If you have something on your mind, say it. We're family." And that's when Alex exploded. "Oh, we're family now? That's rich, considering you've been lying to us for years." The room went dead silent. My dad looked up from his plate, blinking like he had no idea what was happening. Emma's fork froze midair. "Alex, what the hell are you talking about?" I asked. He laughed bitterly. "Why don't you tell them, Mom? Or should I?" The bombshell. Turns out, my mom had been keeping a pretty massive secret. Alex wasn't my dad's biological son. My mom's face turned ghost white. She opened her mouth to say something, but closed it again, clearly unsure of what to do. That's when Alex took over. "I found out 2 months ago," he said, his voice shaking. "I want to do one of those ancestry DNA tests for fun. And guess what? Dad's not my dad." My dad dropped his fork. "What?" Alex pointed at my mom. "You knew, didn't you? You've known this whole time." She didn't deny it. "It was complicated," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Complicated?" Alex shouted. "How about you try explaining it to me?" At this point, everyone was yelling. My dad demanded answers. Emma was crying, and I just sat there stunned. The truth comes out. After what felt like hours of chaos, my mom finally broke down and told us the truth. Alex was the result of a short affair she'd had early in her marriage. She'd been struggling back then. My dad was working long hours, and she felt lonely. When she realized she was pregnant, she and her affair partner had already ended things. She chose to stay with my dad, who never suspected anything. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't want to break up the family. I loved your father, and I still do." Alex was livid. "You let me grow up thinking he was my dad. Did he even know?" My dad looked completely blindsided. "Of course I didn't know," he said. Emma, who'd been quiet up until now, suddenly spoke. "Actually, I've known for a while." Now it was Alex's turn to be stunned. "What do you mean you knew?" Emma avoided his gaze. "I overheard Mom talking about it once when I was in high school, but I didn't know how to bring it up, so I just didn't." This set Alex off again. "Great. So, everyone's been lying to me." "Not everyone," I said. "I had no idea." The aftermath. The rest of the night was a disaster. Alex stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. Emma tried to comfort my mom, but she was inconsolable. My dad sat in silence, staring at the table like he'd just lost a chess game he didn't know he was playing. I stayed behind to help clean up, but the tension was unbearable. My mom kept apologizing, saying she never meant to hurt anyone. But the damage was done. Where we are now. It's been a week since that dinner, and nothing's been the same. Alex isn't answering anyone's calls or texts. My dad's been staying at a friend's house to think things over, which is his way of saying he's not ready to talk to my mom. Emma's trying to play peacemaker, but I can tell she feels guilty for keeping the secret. As for me, I don't know how to feel. My family has always had its quirks, but I thought we were solid. Now it feels like the foundation we were built on was made of sand. I don't know what's going to happen. Will my parents stay together? Will Alex ever forgive my mom? Will we ever go back to being the family we were before? I guess time will tell. But one thing's for sure. Sunday dinners will never feel the same. Update. The family dinner that exposed a decade-long lie. Hi everyone, I posted a week ago about how a family dinner turned into a nightmare when my brother Alex revealed that my dad wasn't his biological father. I honestly didn't think I'd have much of an update so soon, but a lot has happened, and I need to vent. If you haven't read the original post, here's a quick recap. My mom had an affair early in her marriage, and Alex is the result. My dad didn't know. Alex found out through a DNA test, and my sister Emma admitted she'd known for years but stayed quiet. The fallout was massive, with Alex storming out, my dad leaving to think, and the rest of us left picking up the pieces. Alex's response. Alex finally called me back a few days after the dinner. He sounded exhausted, like he hadn't slept at all. I'm done with them, he said flat out. Mom lied to me my entire life, and Emma knew and didn't say a damn thing. What kind of family does that? I tried to calm him down, but he wasn't having it. He told me he was planning to reach out to his biological father, who my mom had named during the blow-up. Apparently, Alex had already tracked the guy down through social media. I deserve answers, he said. I couldn't argue with that. I told him I'd support him no matter what, but I also tried to remind him that cutting off our parents entirely might be something he'd regret later. He didn't seem convinced. My dad came back home 2 days after the dinner, but things between him and my mom are strained, to say the least. I went over to their house to check in, and it was like walking into a war zone. My dad wasn't speaking to my mom unless absolutely necessary, and my mom looked like she'd been crying for days. I tried to talk to my dad one-on-one, but he just shook his head. I don't know what to do, he said. I love her, but how do I trust someone who kept something like this from me for 30 years? It's heartbreaking to see him like this. He's always been the steady, dependable one in our family, and now he just seems lost. He did say one thing that stuck with me, though. I raised Alex as my son. I love him. None of this changes that. But every time I look at him now, I feel like the ground's been ripped out from under me. I didn't just lose trust in your mom. I feel like I've lost part of my identity as his father. Hearing him say that broke my heart. My dad has always been so proud of being a family man, and now it's like he's questioning everything about his role in our lives. My mom is struggling too, but in a very different way. She's consumed by guilt and regret. She told me she feels like she's ruined everything, and that there's no way to fix what she's done. I made a choice a long time ago, she said, tears streaming down her face. I thought I was doing what was best for everyone. I never wanted to hurt Alex, or your dad, or any of you. But now I realize I've been selfish. I kept that secret because I was scared of losing everything. She's been trying to reach out to Alex, but he won't respond. She showed me the text she sent him. Heartfelt apologies, desperate pleas to talk, even offering to go to family therapy. Nothing's worked. Maybe I don't deserve his forgiveness, she said, barely able to meet my eyes. It's hard to see her like this. She's always been the glue of our family, the one who holds us all together. Now, she's the one who's unraveling. Alex's search for his biological father. Here's where things get even more complicated. Alex managed to track down the man my mom said was his biological father. Let's call him Mark. Mark is married with kids of his own now, but Alex reached out to him anyway. From what Alex told me, Mark was surprised but didn't deny the possibility. Apparently, he and my mom hadn't been that careful during their brief affair. Mark agreed to take a DNA test to confirm things, and Alex is waiting for the results. In the meantime, they've started talking, and Alex seems cautiously optimistic about building a relationship with him. I don't know how to feel about it. On one hand, I understand Alex's need for answers and closure. On the other hand, it feels like a betrayal to my dad, the man who raised Alex, who taught him how to ride a bike, helped him with his homework, and stood by him through every milestone. When I brought this up to Alex, he was quick to shut me down. Look, he said, I'm not replacing Dad. He'll always be my father in every way that matters. But this is about me. I need to know where I come from, and I deserve to have that connection if it's there. I didn't push it further. It's his journey, and I know this situation is just as painful for him as it is for the rest of us. Emma's guilt. Emma has been surprisingly quiet since the dinner, which is completely unlike her. She's usually the outspoken one in the family, the mediator who gets everyone to talk things out. But now, she's practically a ghost. When I finally got her to open up, she admitted she feels like she's to blame for how everything exploded. I should have said something when I found out, she said, tears welling up. But I didn't know how. I thought if I kept quiet, I could protect everyone. I thought Mom had her reasons, and it wasn't my place to stir the pot. I told her that while I understand her guilt, this wasn't her secret to tell. She was just a teenager when she overheard it, and it wasn't fair for her to carry that burden all these years. Still, she's clearly struggling with the fallout. I feel like I failed Alex, she said. He's so angry, and he has every right to be. But I hate that he's looking at me like I betrayed him. She's been texting Alex, too, but he's barely responding to her either. The tension between them is heartbreaking. They've always been close, almost like best friends, and now there's this huge wedge between them. The DNA results. Yesterday, Alex got the results back from the DNA test. It confirmed what we all suspected. Mark is his biological father. Alex called me as soon as he got the news. He sounded calm, which was unexpected. Well, now I know for sure, he said. Mark's already talking about meeting up in person. He seems like a decent guy, which is more than I expected. I asked him if he planned to tell Dad about the results, and he hesitated. I don't know yet, he admitted. I don't want to hurt him more than he already is. But he deserves the truth, doesn't he? I didn't have an answer for him. My dad's decision. Meanwhile, my dad is still trying to figure out where he stands. He told me he's considering counseling, either on his own or with my mom. I don't know if our marriage can survive this, he said. But I don't want to make any rash decisions. 30 years of love and memories don't just disappear overnight. At the same time, he's been thinking a lot about his relationship with Alex. DNA doesn't matter to me, he said firmly. He's my son. That's not going to change, no matter what. But he also admitted that he's afraid of losing Alex to Mark. What if he decides he doesn't need me anymore? He asked. I reassured him that Alex still loves him and always will, but I could see how deeply this fear is eating at him. Where we are now. At this point, everyone in the family is in limbo. My parents are living under the same roof, but barely speaking. Alex is trying to navigate his relationship with Mark while deciding how much to involve the rest of us. Emma is racked with guilt, and I feel like I'm stuck in the middle, trying to hold everything together. I don't know what the future holds for us as a family. Will my parents stay married? Will Alex and my dad's relationship survive this? Will Emma and Alex ever mend their bond? All I know is that this isn't the family I thought we were. We're messier, more broken, and more complicated than I ever imagined. But maybe that's okay. Maybe this is the start of something new, something more honest, even if it's painful right now. I'll update again if there are any major developments. Thank you for reading and for all the support on my last post. It's been a rough ride, but your kind words have meant more than you know. Story 2. I fell in love, got engaged, and then found out she's my cousin. Falling in love with Claire felt like the easiest, most natural thing in the world. I met her 2 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue, and the connection was instant. She had this energy about her, kind of intelligent, witty, and I was hooked from the moment we started talking. By the end of that night, I knew I wanted to see her again. A few dates turned into a relationship, and before I knew it, I couldn't imagine life without her. We clicked in every way, shared the same sense of humor, had similar goals for the future, and even had eerily similar family values. Our families were both close-knit, but we had never discussed them in depth. Claire grew up in another state, and her mom wasn't really part of her life. My family? Let's just say they loved to keep things complicated. But nothing about that mattered to me. Claire was my person. So, after 2 years of dating, I decided to propose. It wasn't flashy or extravagant, just a quiet moment in the park where we had our first date. She said yes, cried, and kissed me like we were the only two people in the world. I was the happiest man alive. I called my parents that same night to share the news, expecting excitement and congratulations. What I got instead was the beginning of the nightmare I'm still living. The dinner that changed everything. A week after the proposal, my parents invited Claire and me over for dinner to celebrate. I thought it was a great opportunity for everyone to get to know each other better. My mom had only met Claire once in passing, and my dad hadn't met her at all yet. Claire was nervous, but I reassured her that my family would love her just as much as I did. The evening started off fine. My mom made her famous lasagna, my dad poured wine, and Claire charmed them with her usual warmth. My mom asked about Claire's family, and Claire explained that she was mostly raised by her dad and stepmom because her biological mom had been out of the picture for years. "Oh, I see," my mom said. "And what's your mom's name, sweetheart?" "Linda," Claire replied a little cautiously. My mom froze. She blinked a few times, glanced at my dad, and then back at Claire. Linda Harper?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Claire nodded, confused. "Yes, Linda Harper. Do you know her?" That's when my mom dropped the bombshell. "Linda Harper is your dad's sister. You two are cousins." A horrifying realization. I laughed at first, thinking my mom had gotten something mixed up. There was no way this could be true. Claire's last name wasn't Harper. After all, it was her stepdad's name. But the look on my mom's face made it clear this wasn't some mistake. My dad, usually the quiet one, sighed deeply and said, "I was hoping this wouldn't come up, but yeah, Linda is my half-sister." Claire and I just stared at them. My heart was racing, and Claire looked like she was about to cry. "You knew?" I asked my dad, my voice shaking. "I didn't know you were dating her until now," he said. "But yeah, Linda and I share the same father. I haven't seen her in decades, though. She moved away before you were born, and we never stayed in touch." "Why didn't you tell me?" I demanded. "It didn't seem relevant," he said, throwing up his hands. "Linda's been out of the picture for so long. I didn't think it mattered. It felt like the walls were closing in on me. My fiancée, my perfect, beautiful, everything, was my cousin? The fallout." Claire excused herself to the bathroom, and I followed her. She was visibly shaking, her eyes wide with panic. "What does this mean?" she whispered. Is this wrong?" "I don't know," I said honestly. I didn't see this coming. Dinner was awkward after that. My mom tried to smooth things over, saying things like, "It's not like you two grew up together, and it's not illegal in most states." My dad just sat there, looking uncomfortable and avoiding eye contact. Claire barely touched her food, and we left as soon as we could. The car ride home was silent except for her sniffles. Trying to make sense of it. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. Claire and I talked endlessly, trying to figure out how we felt and what this meant for us. "Does this change how you feel about me?" she asked one night, her voice trembling. "No," I said immediately. "You're still the same person I fell in love with. But I don't know if other people will see it that way." That was the crux of the issue. How would our families react? Our friends? Society in general? It felt like everything we'd built together was now under scrutiny. Claire suggested we talk to her dad, who'd been the primary parent in her life. Maybe he'd have some perspective. Another revelation. When we called Claire's dad, he wasn't surprised. He already knew about her mom's half-brother, my dad. "I always wondered if you'd ever meet that side of the family," he said almost casually. "It's not a big deal, really. You're not first cousins. You're more like half first cousins." "That's still cousins, Dad," Claire snapped. He shrugged. "It's not like you were raised as family. You love each other, right? That's what matters." I wanted to believe that, but I wasn't sure it was true. The family meltdown. Meanwhile, my own family wasn't taking it so lightly. My mom was supportive in her own way, telling me to follow my heart. But my extended family? That was a different story. Word spread quickly. My mom couldn't keep a secret if her life depended on it. Soon, my aunts, uncles, and cousins were calling me nonstop. Some were supportive, saying things like, "It's not that uncommon, really." Others were downright horrified. One cousin even told me, "You're going to have mutant babies if you go through with this." Claire was devastated by the judgment, and I was furious at how cruel people could be. Where we are now. It's been a month since the dinner, and Claire and I are still trying to figure out what to do. We've seen a genetic counselor who reassured us that the risks of having kids together are minimal, no higher than for any other couple. But the stigma? That's something science can't fix. Claire's mom has resurfaced, and that's added another layer of chaos. She's reached out, wanting to reconnect with Claire, but Claire's hesitant. Meanwhile, my dad is trying to make up for his silence, but it's clear he feels guilty. Claire and I love each other, and that hasn't changed. But now our relationship feels tainted, like we're fighting against the world just to stay together. Some days I think we can handle it. Other days I wonder if love is enough. All I know is that I never expected something as simple as a family dinner to turn my life completely upside down.